I was at work reviewing supplier compliance reports when my phone buzzed for the fifth time in a row. All the missed calls were from the same number, home. I stepped outside the food safety lab, assuming something urgent had happened. But the second I answered, my father's voice exploded into my ear, furious and loud, as if I'd just committed some heinous crime. "Are you mocking us, Clara? What is this? What is this insult of an amount?" I blinked. "What do you mean?" He wasn't listening. "You call yourself our daughter and send us 50 cents? 50! Are you out of your mind?" My mother's voice followed right after, sharp and bitter. "You really are selfish, Clara. Living alone, spending on yourself while we struggle. Sienna sends 4,000 every month. 4,000! Why can't you be like her for once?" I couldn't breathe for a second. I stepped back, gripping the metal railing outside the building as if it could hold me together. "That's not true. I've been sending $4,000 every month, properly, from my account. You should check. Don't lie," my father spat. "Sienna told us everything. She's the one sending money. You're just sitting around doing nothing while your sister sacrifices for us. You've always been like this, disappointing." The line went dead. I stood there for a moment, not even realizing my hand was shaking. I had worked every weekend as a warehouse checker at a 24-hour supermarket, skipping dinners, skipping life, just to send money home. I had done it not because they asked, but because for once I thought I could be seen. I thought maybe this was how I finally got to matter. But even now it wasn't enough. I wasn't enough. They thought I sent 50 cents. I walked back into the lab, eyes unfocused, ears ringing. I stared at the sample sheet in front of me and saw nothing but the number, $4,000. My rent was $950. My salary was just under $3,000. I had to cover the rest through weekend shifts and cutting my own meals short, just to hit that number, just to be seen. And now they spat on it. My name is Clara Monroe. I'm 28 years old, a quality assurance analyst at a mid-sized food packaging plant in Cincinnati, Ohio. I live alone in a one-bedroom apartment with a view of nothing special. I get up at 5 a.m. every Saturday to catch the bus to the supermarket where I work nights in a freezing warehouse. And still, somehow, I was never the good daughter. Sienna, my younger sister by 5 years, had always been the star. Tall, dazzling, born with a face that drew compliments like flowers draw bees. She had been called angelic since she was in kindergarten. She always got the last piece of cake, the new clothes, the private music lessons. I got her hand-me-downs in silence. Still, I had never expected that after all these years, after working 2 jobs and living on rice and canned beans, they would still believe I was the selfish one. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just stared at the bedroom ceiling until morning and asked myself the same question over and over. What am I to them? Growing up, I learned early that being the older sister didn't mean being looked up to. It meant being invisible. My earliest memories aren't of birthday candles or bedtime stories, but of standing at the kitchen doorway, watching my parents fuss over Sienna like she was made of glass and gold. "She's got that spark," my mother used to say, brushing Sienna's hair as if it were spun silk. "That face belongs on TV." Strangers in grocery stores would stop us. "What a gorgeous little girl," they'd coo, leaning toward Sienna. "She should be a model." Then they'd glance at me and say nothing. At first, I told myself it didn't matter. I wasn't in this family to win beauty contests. But when you're 7 years old and wearing secondhand jeans that don't quite fit while your sister twirls in brand new dresses from the boutique downtown, you start to feel it. The difference. It was in everything. When I wanted to join the school choir, my parents told me the fees were too high. "It's just singing, Clara. Focus on your studies." But when Sienna said she wanted ballet lessons, the check was written the same day. She didn't even like ballet. When Sienna wanted her own room, my parents looked at me and said, "It's only fair. She needs space to grow. You don't need much, Clara." So I packed up my clothes and moved into the living room, next to the old cabinet with our grandparents' photographs. No one asked me if I was okay with it. They just assumed I'd understand, because I always did. It was my grandfather, Walter Monroe, who made me feel like I was more than background noise. He was the one who held my hand during thunderstorms, who brought me violets every spring, who sat me on his lap and told me stories about brave women and quiet victories. He was the one who named me Clara, because you were born just as the violets bloomed, because you'll grow strong and quiet like them. He died when I was 9, and from then on, there was no one left in that house who really saw me. I didn't complain when I had to wear shoes with soles flapping. I didn't protest when Sienna borrowed my markers and never returned them. I didn't cry when she told me, "You can't borrow my stuff. It's mine, but I can use yours, you don't care." When I brought it up, my parents said the same thing every time. "Clara, let it go. You're the older one. Be mature. Sienna's still a child." Even when she lied, even when she screamed at me for things I hadn't done, even when she broke my science project the night before the fair, and I had to present a paper instead of a model. No one ever scolded her. No one ever apologized to me. I used to think maybe it would change, that one day they'd look at me and say, "Clara, we see you. We're proud of you." But that day never came. Instead, what came was Sienna's acceptance letter to a top-tier university, fully funded by our parents. And me? I didn't even get a chance to apply. "We can't afford it," they said. "You should find a job after high school." Think about Sienna's future, too. They weren't poor. Not really. But when it came to choosing between the two of us, they always knew who deserved more. And it was never me. I was 21 when I moved out. It wasn't out of rebellion. It was survival. I just started working at a food packaging company 3 train stops from home. And though the salary wasn't great, I thought maybe if I stayed at home a few years, I could save enough to go back to school or just breathe. But even after high school, nothing changed. I was still the afterthought. Still the one who had to wait to shower. Still the one who ate dinner alone if Sienna was in a mood. Still the one expected to step aside when her voice got louder. So one evening, without telling anyone, I packed 2 suitcases, grabbed a used microwave from a Craigslist ad, and rented a studio apartment downtown. It was small, drafty in the winter. The water heater clicked like it had asthma. But it was mine. Living alone was the first time I ever felt at peace. I saw my parents now and then, at birthdays, holidays, sometimes not even that. But I always called. I always sent cards. I always remembered anniversaries. Maybe I thought that would be enough to prove I still cared. Then came the phone call from Sienna. She sounded different, less performative, maybe even sincere. "I've been thinking," she said. "Mom and Dad gave us everything. I want to start giving back." I stayed quiet. She went on, voice unusually enthusiastic. "We should send them money, Clara. A thank you. Just $4,000 a month. Between the 2 of us. I mean, I'll cover most of it. I make more than you. But I thought we could do it together." For 1,000? That was more than I paid in rent and food combined. I hesitated. "That's a lot, Sienna." She giggled. "Modeling pays well, you know. I've been doing some influencer gigs too. And anyway, I think Mom and Dad would be really touched. We could surprise them. Oh, and let's send it under a fun name. Maybe Rain. So they won't know right away." I didn't understand the point of the secrecy, but something about her tone, hopeful, bright, made me want to believe. That maybe Sienna was finally growing up. That maybe this could be our shared olive branch. I agreed. That night, I opened a joint transfer app and scheduled $2,000 from my savings to go out the next morning. My salary was just shy of $3,000. That meant I'd have to find another $1,000 every month. So I picked up a weekend job at a nearby supermarket, night shift in the stockroom. It was cold in the winter, humid in the summer, and smelled faintly of onions and bleach. I stopped ordering takeout. cut my phone plan, sold my bike. Anything to keep the numbers working. There were nights I came home, peeled off my uniform, and collapsed onto the mattress without changing clothes. I set alarms to study for a small business consultant certification, hoping I could climb up at work and eventually make more. But every time I felt the ache in my back, every time I counted coins at the register, I told myself it was worth it. This is how you prove you love them, Clara. This is how you earn your place. And so every month, without fail, I sent $2,000, signed from Clara Monroe. The other $2,000, I assumed Sienna was sending it too. That's what we agreed. That's what I believed. The first time they yelled at me, I thought it was a mistake, a glitch in the transfer, a miscommunication. But when I told them clearly, I've been sending $2,000 every month under my name, my father snapped, "Don't lie. We know it's Sienna who's been sending 4,000. You only sent 50 cents. 50 cents. At first I laughed, a hollow sound that died before it reached my lips. Dad, check the receipts, I said quietly. Check the transaction logs. But he wasn't listening. My mother took over, her tone bitter, disgusted. Sienna is smart. She's successful. She sends us what she earns with pride. Meanwhile, you're off wasting money, pretending you're a martyr. They believed her. They believed that Rain, the name Sienna insisted we use, was her stage name, her mark of generosity. And when they saw the other, transfer, mine labeled clearly as Clara Monroe, they assumed it was the insult, the joke, the spare change I threw at them to save face. I remembered, then, the way Sienna had laughed when she picked that nickname. Let's send it as Rain. You know, something pretty. It hadn't been about being pretty. It had been about stealing the spotlight. Again, before I could say another word, my father shouted, "We don't need your mockery. Keep your 50 cents. And then they hung up. I sat in silence. My apartment was dim, the only light coming from the microwave clock blinking 1 a.m. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. But my jaw tightened and something inside me broke. I needed to know the truth. The next morning, I called Harper. Harper Lee wasn't just my high school best friend. She was one of the few people I trusted in this world. She worked in consulting now, sharp as ever, with a voice like a scalpel. If something was off, she'd find it. We met for lunch at a diner near her office. I hadn't even finished telling the full story when she leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. "Clara, you're too kind. That's your problem. You've been bleeding for a family that would never even give you a Band-Aid." I blinked. She went on, voice low, deliberate. "Let me ask you something. Your parents, are they really broke? Or are they just used to guilt-tripping you into giving them money?" "I mean, they said there were debts from raising us." Harper scoffed. "You didn't even go to college. Sienna got the degree, the new clothes, the room to herself. What part of the spending was on you?" I didn't answer. Harper leaned closer. "Do you even know what Sienna does with her money? Or if she even makes money?" The words sat in my stomach like ice. Later that night, Harper called again. Her voice was flat. I asked around. Sienna doesn't have real gigs, just scraps from online catalogs. She posts throwbacks to old shoots to make it look like she's working. And get this, someone told me she's been telling her friends, my sister supports me. I don't even need to work full time. My throat went dry. Also, Harper added, your dad? He's not working full shifts. He's been spotted at that sketchy casino outside town. And your mom? She's been bragging about her new designer bag. Gucci, I think. Everything inside me burned. I had starved, worked in freezing warehouses, sacrificed sleep, weekends, and peace for them, and they used that money to gamble, to shop, to lie. That night, I stopped the payments, and I promised myself I would never give them another dollar, not unless they knew what it cost me to earn it. 2 months passed. I ignored the calls, the texts, the guilt-laced voicemails from my mother. I blocked Sienna on every platform. Silence was the only language I had left, and for the first time it felt powerful. Until one morning, just past 8 a.m., my phone rang again. I don't know why I answered. Maybe I was ready. Maybe I wanted to hear it. "Clara!" Sienna barked. "Why haven't you been answering? Why did you stop sending money? Are you out of your mind?" She sounded frantic. Not angry, panicked. "I'm already drowning in expenses. I told Mom and Dad it was from both of us, and now they think I lied." There it was, the truth she had danced around for years. "You did lie," I said flatly. There was silence. I continued, calm and slow. "You said it would be our gift. Equal. You never told them I was the one sending the money. And now you're mad because your story is falling apart." She started to speak, but I didn't let her. "Do you know how many weekends I spent in a freezer just to send that money? While you were getting facials and throwing influencer brunches." More silence. "I know about the debt," I added. "Or should I say the lack of debt? There never was any, was there?" She tried to deflect. "You don't get it. The modeling world is brutal. I'm doing my best." "No, you're not," I said. "You're doing what you've always done, using people." Then I hung up, but the fallout was only beginning. A week later, my parents showed up at my apartment without warning. Sienna was with them. Their faces were drawn, tired, but their eyes lit up the second I opened the door. "Clara, there you are!" my mother exclaimed, like this was a reunion, not a reckoning. "We've been trying to reach you," my father added. "We need your help, just a little loan, to get us through this rough patch." Sienna stood behind them, lips trembling. "Please, I made a mistake. I thought I could pull it off. I thought the new agency was real." I stared at her. "What agency?" She looked down. Then it all spilled out. Sienna had been scouted, so she thought, by a premium talent agency in New York. They promised her a lead role in an indie film and a contract if she could pay an entrance investment fee. So, naturally, she asked our parents for help. My father gave up his early retirement fund. My mother took out a personal loan. Sienna wired the money. And then silence. No one from the agency ever called back. No contract. No contact. It was a scam. And they'd lost everything. The house had to be sold to cover the loan defaults. They moved into a crumbling apartment complex on the east side of town. My father picked up temp jobs to stay afloat. My mother started cleaning offices. Sienna, jobless, humiliated, bounced between nightclubs, trying to earn tips as a hostess. But her attitude made her impossible to keep. They had come to me as a last resort, and I looked at them like strangers. You threw away my trust. You chose her lies over my reality, and now you want my help. My mother flinched. My father's jaw tightened. Sienna whispered, "Please, Clara, we don't have anyone else." I stared at them a long time. Then I said without blinking, "Before you come to me, go to the police. Go to a therapist. Go to the mirror." And then, for the second time that year, I closed the door in their faces. The knock came again, louder this time, more desperate. I didn't answer. I watched from behind the curtain as they stood there, shifting on the porch like they still belonged. My father was checking his watch. My mother whispered something into Sienna's ear. Sienna just stared at the floor like a child who finally realized there were no more toys left to break. Eventually they left, but not before sliding an envelope under the door. Inside was a single piece of paper, hastily written. "No, dear Clara. No, we're sorry." Just a list of numbers. And a final line scrawled at the bottom. "We'll use your grandfather's savings if you refuse to help. Consider this your last chance." My blood went cold. That money wasn't theirs. It wasn't even for them. Grandpa Walter had left it in a trust in my name when he passed. He'd seen something in me back then, something he wanted to protect, something he wanted to survive. And now they wanted to rip even that away. I didn't hesitate. I went to the bank the next morning and transferred the entire amount into a secured investment account under legal lock. I changed my number. I notified my landlord not to forward anything from unknown senders. I deleted every old voicemail, every text, and then I breathed. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about finally standing up and saying no more. No more pretending. No more trying. No more believing that if I just loved them harder, they'd eventually see me. They never would. I wasn't their daughter. I was their resource, their afterthought, their backup plan when Sienna's charm failed to cash out. So I stopped playing the role. I stopped answering to the version of Clara they'd created in their heads. Weeks passed, then months. The silence became comfort, not punishment. I focused on work. I took the certification exam I'd been studying for and passed with top scores. Harper helped me apply to a new consulting firm in Columbus, bigger, better pay, with actual opportunity for growth. They hired me as a team leader. I moved into a sunlit apartment near the river, the kind with hardwood floors and a little balcony where I could grow violets, just like the ones Grandpa loved. One afternoon, as I was unpacking a box of books, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Harper. "You've come a long way. I hope you see that." I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I replied, "I do. For the first time. I really do." And I meant it. 5 years later, I would think back to that day as the real beginning of my life. Not the day I graduated. Not the day I moved out. But the day I chose myself. The day I let them go. And watched myself rise in the silence they left behind. 5 years. That's how long it had been since I last heard their voices. In that time, I got promoted twice. I mentored 3 junior analysts. I built a tiny garden on my apartment balcony and learned how to make bread from scratch. I traveled. I read. I laughed more than I thought I ever would. And I never once looked back. Not until Harper's wedding. It was a warm October afternoon in Miami. Sky like silk. Breeze rolling off the ocean with just enough salt to remind you where you were. The ceremony was held in a seaside chapel, small but radiant, filled with soft music and the kind of laughter that only comes from people who truly love each other. Harper looked stunning. Her gown simple, her eyes brighter than I had ever seen them. She had always been the strong one, the one who pulled people back from the edge. The one who reminded me that love didn't have to be something you begged for. Her husband, Michael, was kind, patient, the sort of man who never needed to be the loudest in the room. Together, they looked like a promise finally fulfilled. As the reception settled into a rhythm of toasts and slow dancing, Harper came over and took my hand. "Clara," she grinned, "there's someone I want you to meet." I followed her to the edge of the terrace, where a tall man stood watching the ocean. Tan suit, light beard, smile that flickered even before he turned to face me. "This is Nick," Harper said, nudging me. "Architect. Heart of gold. Has a thing for violets, apparently." Nick laughed, the sound low and easy. "Only because they're stubborn flowers. They bloom, quietly, even when nobody's watching." I raised an eyebrow. "That sounds familiar." He looked at me then, and I swear, for a moment, it felt like the world paused. We talked the rest of the night about books, cities, how the Midwest teaches you to hold silence like armor, how sometimes letting go of your family is the only way to build one of your own. He didn't ask me what happened, and I didn't offer it. Some things don't need to be explained to be understood. Later, as the evening faded into candlelight and the DJ started playing soft jazz, I stepped outside to the balcony alone. The sky stretched wide, cloudless, infinite. The kind of sky Grandpa Walter would have loved. I closed my eyes. "Are you watching, Grandpa?" I whispered. "Your Clara's okay now. I'm blooming, just like you said I would." Somewhere in the distance, a bell rang softly. I smiled. Maybe this wasn't revenge. Maybe it was just freedom. And maybe, just maybe, that was the most powerful ending of all.